Konnichiwa, and welcome to episode 23 of the Let's Talk Game podcast. I'm doing the talking and the hosting again because Chunt's a sleepy boy today.
Yeah.
Are we still referring to you as the man in the middle, or is that joke past? What do you reckon?
Nah, fuck it off. Well, we're only like 5 seconds in and I've already sworn. Fable 2, it just keeps crashing and I gave up and I'm not playing a game in that format. And, I will say Fable 2 is quite enjoyable, more than I thought it was going to be. So I'm feeling like I want to pick up an actual disc copy and play it on my 360 and just take my cloud save over just to finish it. A lot of fun.
It is a quality game, but I will not refer to you as the man in the middle, so good morning to you, Chunt.
Morning.
Dan, how are you doing, mate? You okay?
Yeah, good. Little scratchy throat this morning, but I'm okay. I should be right to talk for the next hour or hour and a half, however long this episode goes for.
You're all virused. So we've got quite a newsy episode, boys. We were just talking about that. It's been a pretty heavy news week for the first time in 3-4, I'd say, that we've had actually stuff that's happened this week. Not all of it's positive. Just thinking last week about the whole, trying to steer conversations a bit more positive direction, because there's been a lot of negative stuff going down in the last sort of 9-10 weeks. So we'll try and give it a positive spin if we can. Bring those butterflies into Chunt's early morning tummy.
Yay, please.
Well, you can start us off then, mate. I gather you've been playing Fable 2, as you were just alluding to, but what else have you played this week?
Animal Crossing, duh. Oh my god. I've come up with this plan that I've let you guys know about, that I'm trading it in. I'm trading in my Switch and my PS4 after this weekend. I have to walk away. EB's got a massive deal on at the moment that I'm going to capitalize on, so I can get some of that massive store credit happening for when Series X comes. When pre-order time comes around, I'm just going to whack it on that, and that'll help me to no end secure my footing to the next gen. But yeah, I've tried a lot recently. I played through Streets of Rage 4. That was actually a lot better than I thought it was going to be. It's exactly what I wanted it to be. Like, it's not one of those games where they remake it or they bring back an old classic and it doesn't live up to the past, or at least to me. So that was a pleasant surprise. And recently I played the trial demo for Ooblets on Xbox. I didn't think I would enjoy it, but when the 1 hour time frame expired, because it was a trial, an hour, I was actually pretty gutted because I was already invested, and at the same time I'm like, it's probably a good thing because I can't afford to get my balls in a vice for another Animal Crossing type game. It's actually quite fun. It's like a mixture of Animal Crossing and like Digimon or Pokemon or something, because you got to get these little ooblet things and they help you around the island doing things, and you could do like dance battles, and it's like a card game, turn-based combat system. There's a lot more in depth than I thought there was going to be after watching the initial demo trailer for it. So I think I played something else. I can't remember it, so it must have been too important. Yep, done.
Dan?
This week was a little more Death Stranding, just walking around, making deliveries. I think I'm making one big final push from like the main city and bringing everything to the second position, and then just go to the third and the fourth and deliver everything, and then actually move on from the first area because I think I'm ready. I already have a pretty high skill level and I haven't gone anywhere. But the other thing I actually played, I took advantage of that PlayStation sale that's on at the moment, and I got Call of Duty Modern Warfare.
Ooh.
Jumping into those first-person shooters.
Nice.
You guys love so much.
Nice.
I'm actually having a really good time with it, and part of it makes me feel like I've gone back to when I used to play all the CODs back in the late aughts, and I love a lot of the stuff that they've done. I'm almost finished. I feel like I'm in the last couple of missions, but a lot of like the character perspective changes is really interesting, and Call of Duty's always had that, but in this story they're actually kind of giving you a reason for the character that you're playing. It's not just you're playing a different no-name character that you always do. So yeah, Call of Duty. So hopefully finish that in the next couple of hours this morning, and then on to something else.
Nice.
Well, I've played some more FIFA this week. Not a lot compared to the last few weeks. There's been some announcements about 21, which are great. It looks like I'm going to have a good FIFA this next year. This one's been subpar. And then the only other thing I played this week was this morning. And Chunt, you were playing the same thing. Both played some Avengers.
Oh, that's right. On
the PC. My God, does that game look good on a high end rig? And Chunt could run it, so that's great. We were kind of talking to each other as we were playing through it. I'm all in on this game. Like, I think if the cinematic presentation and the story is as good as kind of the teaser that's in there, I'm all about it. The concern I know that we raised on the podcast a few weeks ago was, does it feel fun to play? And it does, and all of the heroes equally feel fun to play. I think for me, Black Widow and Captain America surprised me in how good they felt to play. They actually, for me, I think were the two best to play. Black Widow especially, she's got a bit of that sort of Arkham style hand-to-hand combat, but then some, obviously she's got her guns and things like that, so it's really good. I'm keen to play some more of that. Managed to get through the 3 story beat missions that are in it, and now kind of opened up the harm rooms and the other stuff. So Chunt, let's knock one of them out, see if we can actually get in a lobby together. Apparently it's been an issue through the betas to actually do multiplayer stuff, but we can give it a go. I don't know if that extends as far as Steam and the PC version, but I don't know. While we're just talking about it, have you got any initial thoughts on, because you've been quite unsold on it given the exclusivity stuff? Have you got any thoughts having now played it?
Man, I put out a tweet last night about it, and I'll summarize just by saying, like, if I was as big of a Marvel fan as I am a DC fan, I would be like messing my pants at this game. It's fun to play. It looks great. The characterizations are there. They feel more lived in than the MCU, as far as I'm concerned, just with the brief stint I've had in it. The Hulk is a lot of fun. Oh my God. Like, I didn't expect that. I was like, oh, this is going to be boring, just smashy bangs. But his combat style is actually a bit, it's a bit more expansive than I thought it was going to be. You can like grab people and use them as like a bat and just hit other people with it and slam them on the ground, like, you know, the puny god stuff. You can turn your rage meter on and it gives you more combat options, and jump around and like flying punch and like diving and stuff into people. And the Hulk is very much I'm pleased with that. Brings me back to the Hulk Ultimate Destruction game on the Xbox and PS2 era. That kind of feel where you just feel like the Hulk. Captain America, I totally agree. I want a full game of that. That brief little part of Captain America, I was like, yes, this is what I want. I didn't really care much for Iron Man, actually. That was a bit boring.
Yeah. I was expecting him to be my favorite character, and he's my least favorite.
Yeah, it's just like an on-rails shooter type vibe where you're just hovering there, picking people off. I mean, that's what he does. But I just thought it'd be a lot more fun than that. Black Widow was a lot of fun because you've got to be a bit more on your toes. That kind of balance, like she can't really jump around, you know, doing flippies and stuff. So you got to kind of dodge and use your gadgets and whatnot. But yeah, the presentation is just like off the charts. Like, I'm surprised by it. And we've all seen it. We've all seen the demos that have been on display. But yeah, look, if I was a Marvel fan, I'd be all over this. secondly, if there was no DLC exclusive stuff happening, I would be picking this up. But this next gen coming, I have to stand by more of my selective choices this time and not just let stuff slide, like just on a principle level. I'm not going to support the game. I'm not going to buy it on Xbox because if they're going to hide Spider-Man, like take that away from people like me who don't have a PS4, and the developers have some bullshit excuse of saying, oh, that players do have an option. They can just buy a PlayStation, if they want to play Spider-Man. And I was like, fuck you, mate. That's just such a dick thing to say. I'm not doing it. So I hope everybody else enjoys it. And yeah, otherwise, yeah, I totally agree with you, Jamie. A lot of fun.
And Dan, I have got a beta key for you. I just haven't spoken to you since.
Ah, cool. Well, yeah, I'll definitely give it a go this weekend. Totally forgot
maybe we
about
can all
that.
do it together at some point. But Chun, the thing you mentioned there, the exclusive content, that's kind of leading into one of the news beats for the week, being that it was announced that Marvel's Avengers was getting further exclusive DLC in the form of to Verizon and Virgin customers and to Intel customers. Nothing other than cosmetic skins, but I gather that's your thoughts are kind of summed up with what you said about Spider-Man. Dan, what do you think this does for the game? And is it becoming kind of too much of a monopoly very quickly?
It absolutely is. When the Spider-Man stuff was mentioned last week, I was kind of on this thing because I think it flipped the script for you guys in terms of just going, nah, not going to play it. For me, it didn't move the needle at all. I'm still undecided. Still, might have picked it up later because I'm only. The main thing is those Avengers, and when you have a character that is tacked on like that, you can't. It doesn't feel like it's going to be impactful because you can't have a story that heavily involves Spider-Man because otherwise it's not going to work for the rest of the game. So therefore, I've always thought to myself, well, there's no point in even thinking about it because it's not going to be that important. So then this week when they came out announcing, the Verizon, the Virgin, and the Intel stuff. Last week I was half and half. I was like, man, why is PlayStation doing this? And then I was like, yeah, but Square Enix, like, they're the ones that say yes to the deal, and Crystal Dynamics are just making the game. Then all this stuff comes out this week, and now a lot of my disappointment is pointed more towards Square Enix because they're clearly just taking money from wherever they can, not really thinking of the developers. They're thinking of just making sure no matter how much money they put into this game, they're going to get it from other avenues, and not. It almost screams like they're not confident in Crystal to make a good game, good enough to sell to people, which is really quite frustrating.
I'd agree with that sentiment of getting the money back. Like you're saying, like, they want to generate revenue and get these deals done. The presentation is outstanding. Like, there's been a lot of money pumped into this game, and I was thinking this morning, playing through not even the first mission, which is very on rails and cinematic, but the following one, going, like, you have to think that maybe Marvel have put money into this as well. Like, just given the level of that's behind it, like, it's good. It is a good quality, good feeling video game, and that's what everybody was so concerned about. Do you throw Thor's hammer and feel like you're throwing Thor's hammer? And you do. It's got that weight behind it and the vibration and the you were playing with a Duke, right?
Yes.
I was playing with my Elite, and the haptic vibrations that are in the triggers, like when you throw, like it gives you that haptic feedback that it's coming back to you. It like vibrates the haptic triggers. So they've actually used stuff like that, which I know will obviously be utilized next gen on PlayStation and things like that as well. That's a point to raise just before we kind of move away from the Avengers stuff, is how on earth this game runs on base units from this gen. I've got no idea. I know Digital Foundry have kind of put videos and stuff out, highlighting that they wouldn't recommend playing on the base systems. Like, it's not a good version of the game, but the kind of enhanced versions on PS4 Pro and Xbox One X are passable. But if I dialed absolutely everything up, playing in 4K, which, you know, the Pro, the X, and next gen is targeting, I said to Chun, I dialed everything right up. So Ultra, 4K, trying to hit 60, and I was dropping to like 35, 40 frames a second. It looks phenomenal. Like, it looks next gen, like when you're pushing at those Ultra settings. So it does make me think, like, how on earth are those now clearly aged consoles benefiting from this game? But no, so much fun. I'm really, Dan, you'll really enjoy it. As quite the Marvel fan, I think you'll be more sold than you're expecting to be, because both Chunt and I went in going like meh, and I've actually come away going, yep, day one. So yeah, that's Marvel Avengers and what's going on with them. More exclusive stuff going on. There's been some noise around timed exclusives being a massive thing this generation, and Dan, again, it's coming from PlayStation, so we'll go to you as the resident PlayStation dude. What have you heard about it, and what are your thoughts about kind of the noises that are circulating at the minute?
Yeah, well, this is one I was tossing and turning whether we talk about, because, you know, it's still rumor based, but with everything happening right now, and with the PlayStation 5 announcement in June, and then the showcase, there's just all this talk about the publishers going, like Microsoft and Sony, going to all these different developers and just throwing money to get console exclusive timed exclusive, like your what was that Bethesda game where you have the two shooters going up against each other?
Deathloop.
You remember? I'll think about it when it's not my turn. But there's all these games they're going after, and it sounds like what's happening is that it's PlayStation and Microsoft are going into the same studios to talk about it, offering money, but PlayStation are just throwing so much money that Microsoft are like, we're not, that's even above the asking price, like we're not going to spend the money on that. And I think it's an interesting strategy. It'd be hypocritical of me to be like, oh yeah, this is all good, blah blah blah, because I remember when back in our Gameplug days, like years and years ago, I always commented when Microsoft were doing timed exclusives, like with the Tomb Raider and stuff, and I'd say, like, Microsoft need, like, you know, they need to actually go and either like buy studios or work with second parties and like fully publish the games, not just throw money at a developer just so they can have the game. This is back when like not Limbo, Inside was like a timed exclusive for 3 months and those stuff. And I'd always say, like, they just need to put the money down and just work with the second party, like PlayStation do with Quantic Dream or something like that, and they'll get more out of it. Lo and behold, 5 years later, Microsoft has bought 6 new studios. They're putting their money towards all these new games, and PlayStation, while they're still making the games that they do and they still work on it, now they're just doing exactly the same thing, which I don't understand. I'm assuming the reason they're doing it is because they want to kind of celebrate the console as like, this is the place to play, and therefore they want to get these bigger games that can only be played there at the beginning. But I don't like that. I'm like, if you're going to try and support some devs and support a game, like, make the game yourself. Like, then you always have it. But that's my thoughts anyway. I'm not sure how you guys think about it. I think
the point to make there obviously is as well that there's the biggest noise coming out of all of these rumors, and it is speculation, is that there's something brewing that PlayStation have managed to acquire that is going to really, really wind everybody up when it's announced. I mean, unless you're a PlayStation fan and you're playing nothing but PlayStation, in which case, well done for you. But have we got any thoughts on what that might be? Chunt, have you any ideas what that could be, what property it could be?
No, no idea. Well, I hate this time exclusivity stuff. I hate it. Like even when Microsoft were doing it, you know, it's initially it was like, yeah, cool, feather in your cap, but it's just dumb. It doesn't work for everybody. It doesn't help the whole situation. Like, yeah, some developers might get something out of it, but even with the Tomb Raider stuff, I was like, well, Tomb Raider's always been like, at least for last gen, it was on everything. It wasn't always a PlayStation thing, and you've had a whole generation of people that have played Tomb Raider, and then for it to go exclusive, I thought that was a bit unfortunate. And like Dan said, I wish that they just took the chance to make their own exclusive game if they wanted something like that in their portfolio. But and just with like Final Fantasy VII being time exclusive as well, the remake, I get it. Like it's so like synonymous with PS1 and PlayStation, like that original game. But a lot's changed since then. Almost every Final Fantasy game is on Xbox now and PC, and for it to be time exclusive on PS4, I was like, come on, that was just a bit rich. So that's up in March in 2021. So I'm pending an announcement, I hope, for an Xbox release and PC release, because I want to play that very badly. So if we're having more of this going into next gen, it's just disheartening. I don't want it. I'm not interested in time stuff, and you're going to have people like me that are like, oh, that looks cool, I guess I'll play that in a year or two and I'll get it on sale. You know, I'm not paying full price just out of protest. You know, like, I refuse to support that kind of stuff this time around because we've had a lot of it. So yeah, but I've got no idea what this big thing is that would be brewing. It could be anything. But yeah, that's Dan, my feel on it.
Dan, have you any thoughts about what it might be?
There's a lot of talk about PlayStation doing a Silent Hill, not a remake, but like a reboot, like a soft reboot type thing, with Konami. I don't know if Kojima would be involved. I think, is just putting Kojima as part of it because of that relationship with Sony, and then obviously the Konami connection. But that sounds like a movie, like the Konami connection. But apparently that's a heavily speculated one. I think Jeff Grubb has talked about that, like they have it ready to announce, and they were thinking of announcing it in August, but they're waiting to show off some of the third party stuff that they have. Yeah, but the thing is like, does a timed exclusive game make you guys want to go out and get it? Like when the Tomb Raider stuff happened, I just said, well, that freaking sucks. I'll play it in a year. Okay, all right. So then, I think it was like 18 months later, I played through Tomb Raider and Tomb Raider 2 together. Like, it doesn't make you want to go to get another console to go play it. Like, my thing has always been, I need enough games that I will spend the same money on the games as I would on the console itself. And so if it's only like that one game, I don't get it. I really don't.
No, I'm not. I'm just like, it'd have to be something like where the fear of not playing it and missing out was like palpable. And I think to do that, you have to do something. It'd have to be silly, like say Rocksteady's Justice League game. Sorry, Suicide Squad game. That comes up and that comes up and it's a timed exclusive with PlayStation for a year. Like, do you know what I mean? That to me, that's a huge deal. That's a crazy deal.
Imran Khan on Kind of Funny mentioned that he's surprised this hasn't been announced yet, but it's that basically whatever it is like Marvel's Avengers big. Like that's the type of size we're talking about in terms of a.
And do you know what? I know that we obviously started this conversation as what do we think that big game might be? I think it is. I think it's the Suicide Squad game. Or the Batman game.
Where do you announce that? At DC Fandom, or does Sony want to announce that themselves?
I think it'd be at Fandom.
They're talking the Suicide Squad game at Fandom. So we'll find out.
They're talking
then.
about the Batman game as well. I think it's one of them. I think it's one of the two of them.
Yeah.
And I'll be very sad that it is. I mean, fortunately, I'll probably have both machines, so, you know, but that's a privileged position, and I know that not everybody's in it, so I'd be gutted. I'd want to play it on Xbox just for do you know what I mean? For me, my profiles are what I judge by, and the most of my investment is in achievements and Xbox Live, and that's where I've played the majority of games for the last 10-12 years. So we'll see when it comes around anyway, but moving away from all of that kind of stuff, the PlayStation is also apparently struggling.
Positive talk.
Yeah, this is quite negative as well. There's a lot of stuff going around, and again, Jeff Grubb's been cited, and you know, as a veteran of the industry, you have to kind of take what he says as not gospel, but probably rather truthful. And that's that the PlayStation 5 is struggling with third-party engines and games. But thoughts on that? I mean, are we in a world where Sony should be doing more there? I mean, personally, my feelings are, if Sony know that developers are struggling, they should be offering quite a excessive hand to make sure that they're not completely, you know, squashed when it comes to the launch period. Dan?
Yeah, so when I was listening to this stuff during the week, it made me think of like around the time of the Xbox One launch, where, you know, everyone was saying, well, look, this game's been played at 1080p on the PlayStation 4, and this one's been played at 900 on the Xbox One. And I'm like, you're playing the same game. Like, it's still running at 30 frames. Like, get over it. And I feel like this is a similar thing. I feel like at launch, there's going to be some games where they will just run on a Series X at 4K, 60 frames, and on PlayStation 5, they'll have to run at 1080p and do a patch later until they work out the system. It sounds like, and I'm not into all the gear and the specs of all this stuff. So Jamie, you have much more knowledge than I do. But it sounds like the way the PlayStation works with, in terms of using its memory and it's also its solution to heating is just a different way to make games or put games on the console. And so these third-party developers are just thinking about how to do that in a different way, which they will figure out. And so in 2 years' time, 3 years' time, it won't be a problem at that point.
I mean, it's a dumb way. The way they're doing it's a dumb way, but they're doing it because of, I think, issues. You know, and again, this is going back months ago. We spoke about, you know, when developers were starting to leak that they were having trouble developing for the console then, because of the overheating, because of the throttling. And that's exactly what this is. It's the same rumor coming to fruition, but in a different light. That they're trying to program and basically replicate what they're doing with the Series X, and it won't let them because of how the architecture works and how it's throttling different parts of the CPU or the GPU. It balances its power delivery between those two things dependent on what part of the process is being asked for. So a really heavily GPU intensive game will use way more of the GPU and take some power from the CPU because it's not needed, and vice versa, which can be, really, really jarring. I mean, PCs are not built like that, and the whole thing is we're supposed to be moving to a pretty much universal PC architecture across the board. So it's a strange decision, but like you said, they'll get there in a few years, I'm sure. Just interesting that they'd rest on the laurels and not have this fixed for developers to hit this date. I'm still and this is just throwing in completely anecdotally, these consoles shouldn't be coming out this year. They just shouldn't be coming this year. They should be delayed to next year. Like, let's be honest, like they're both gonna release half-baked, and a lot of what's going to come out is going to be half-baked as well.
Well, Phil's got he's got a retail Series X unit at home now, so it's ready to go.
Yeah. That probably puts us on to the next topic, though, which was around the supposed release date. And carry on, Chunk, because he has got a retail unit in his home.
Yeah, so I mean, we mentioned this a few of these podcasts ago, where I kind of called it as I think the Series X has been ready for a while, particularly when Phil's had a unit at home. And they've been touting it and presenting it quite openly for months now. So it sounds like they're pretty settled on what their build is, and they've been building it for like the last 4 years. So I think they know what they're doing with it, and it's been ready for quite some time. And I think the whole issue with what rumors are with the PS5 struggling with their performance is the whole fact of I don't think they were prepared for how much more powerful that the Series X was going to be. So they might have just went back and gone, oh shit, how much more power can we get out of this? And overclock everything. And if you're getting a lot of these rumors about the same stuff from different people with struggling and overheating and just heating issues in general or optimization, it just sounds like they're trying to put a band-aid fix on it to kind of close the gap as much as they can with what hardware they have. Which, I mean, I don't think that's the right decision if you're going to be causing all kinds of bottlenecks like that. Nintendo's gotten by with tech that's a generation or two old, and I mean, their games look good for Nintendo games, and just make do with what you have. Yeah, you might not be able to say you've got the most powerful console, but your games are still going to look good. And if your developers if you can take the concern away from them for the overheating problems and all that kind of stuff, and just give them a system that's stable, I think you can spend more resources on building a better game rather than trying to make it work. But in regards to the Series X and the release date and all that, who knows? I mean, we know it's November. They announced that. The secretly leaked or accidentally leaked Series X and S controllers that have been coming out that everybody seems to have now. The release date on some of this packaging is saying do not open before the November 6th of 2020. So everybody's thinking, oh, is that the release date for the Series X in general and the Series S? I mean, that's exciting if that's the case, so at least we know. But I think it's a bit telling. Like, they've been doing this whole cat and mouse game of, pricing, no one's announcing it, release dates, no one's announcing it. And we know for a fact that Xbox and Microsoft, they don't want to put a price out there, and they want to kind of force Sony to do it first so they can just immediately undercut, because that's what they want to do. Which is funny, and Sony haven't even come out with a release window of like a month yet. So for them to go, it's coming out November without a date, like they're just like November time. I think they're kind of pushing along. I think
that was maybe a little bit of a reaction to the controller leak as well. The fact that they have said yes, November is correct, but in terms of a day, I think they could. I think it's wild that this stock is in retail places. Do you know what I mean? It is only August, and they've got stock sat there now that they're not allowed to sell till November. That seems outrageous. I mean, great that they're kind of. I mean, logistically, it's good that they've managed to kind of get everything out way ahead of time. I wouldn't have expected those like packaging things to arrive until sort of late September, early October.
Well, to be fair, just to touch on your point there, Jamie. Excuse me. Before the launch of the 360, I was in New Zealand, and we were just in a shop, and I just so happened to find like this little bundle package of a 360 controller, perfect dart the game, and a couple other bits and bobs. Oh, a faceplate. And the 360 was still a few months away, And I was like, I have to buy it, and I'll figure out how to get it home to Australia later in my suitcase. I was just super freaking hyped, and I remember coming home and I had this 360 controller and the faceplate, and I was just looking at it for months, just going, "Oh, I can't wait." So it's not like unusual, but yeah, I know what you mean. For people to have that stuff, I mean, controllers are probably easy to get out the door,
And the refinement, I guess, wasn't really too much either. Dan, have you any thoughts?
Well, I was just going to. Yeah, I was just thinking then, like, if are these controllers, because I know they've got a couple of different functions on it, like they'll have a share button basically now as well. Like, they're going to work on an Xbox One anyway, aren't they?
They are, yeah.
Yep.
So even though the packaging might say don't open before November 6th, Microsoft could always be like, these controllers are available now if you want to go get one now for anyone that has an Xbox One if they want. Like, they don't necessarily need to launch with the new consoles. But
True.
yeah, it was interesting, the state, because it was the Halo delay, and then the day after was consoles getting released in November announcement, and then there was like the day later when all these controller images started popping up. So it was a different way, but I think everyone can kind of see that Microsoft, as Chunt said, want to announce their price last because they want a mic drop moment to basically be like either undercut or just show like we have a more powerful console and it's the same as this console here. And then I think they also want to be first to release the console. So last to announce price, first to release. And because I don't see PlayStation releasing in October. I think that was one of Chunt's predictions. I think this is all just to stuff up our predictions, to be honest, and it's going to ruin our points, and it's really going to ruin my Series S prediction of coming out next year if this is all true.
Well, couple of more newsy bits that are obviously not positive, because news is never positive these days. Before some nice stuff that did look good this week. So Halo 5 could have been piecemealed, according to Phil Spencer, who was on Gary Whitta's Animal Crossing show. He went on there obviously with the intent of just messing around talking about Animal Crossing, and then the Halo delay happened, and he obviously got cornered. But yeah, he said that Halo, they toyed with the idea of piecemealing it up, putting it out chapters at a time on Game Pass, obviously, so that it hit the launch window still, but then they felt like that wasn't right, and it wasn't Halo, and it wasn't what fans of Halo expect. Chunt, would you have taken that?
Hell no. Oh my god, you don't friggin' portion out Halo like that. I mean, the last time they did that was Halo 4, but you still had a full campaign to go through, and then after that you had I think it was called Spartan Ops, like chapters, missions that would come out that just kind of expanded the world a bit. Yeah, like it wasn't in continuity like after the game or anything. I think it was like other teams and shit. I can't remember. That's how important that kind of phase of that game was, but that was all right, because you already had the full campaign, you've got the full multiplayer, and then they're releasing these little gameplay chapters of extra story missions and stuff, and that was all right. But you don't do that to Halo. That's what my concern was in I think we mentioned it in our downloading soon for Halo, where I was concerned about next week. I was concerned about how this might affect the story and how they build the world in these games, because part of the big draw and the massive appeal, besides the multiplayer, is the world and the story for Halo. And I saw that headline going around about, and I watched a few clips of that Animal talking with Phil on it. Actually, some very cool conversation. I like listening to Phil. Like he's very personable and open, and every time he talks about something, he's honest and genuine. But he can only say so much. But when it's about him and himself, it's pretty cool to listen to. But yeah, you don't do that to Halo, man. I think it was a smart decision after all. Obviously, that the announcement came out that Matt Booty and Bonnie Ross and all that stuff came together and were like, are we going to do this or not? And I think they all kind of saw the reaction and said, how can we fix this? And just said, oh, look, let's just delay it and deal with it. I think ultimately that's going to benefit, like everybody's saying, that has a straight adult mind. it's going to benefit the game in the long run. And for fans like me and other players or new players, you don't want to invite new players into a broken up piecemeal of a game, And I will be damned if I'm going to play a Halo game and get through a chapter that's like an open world experience, or semi-open world experience, and then hit a wall of like chapter 2 coming soon. Hell no. Not a chance. Not when you've got a massive ring to explore and you go to another part of a new level that you've just unlocked, and you walk forward 2 steps and a big screen comes in your face going, I hope you like that. Come back in a few months for the next part. That'll just be like, I'll turn around and just like, no way in hell. I'll see you in 5 years when there's a complete edition. Thank you.
Yeah. Dan, would that be something that you'd be interested in, seeing Halo go episodic?
No, it wouldn't. But what I did get out of all of this is I think it actually kind of either cemented my thoughts or made me think about how the actual game of Halo is structured, which I thought it was going to be this way anyway. But the idea of essentially this open-ish area with a bunch of missions all over the place, which you can drive to and do, you'll spend like a few hours like on that world, and then you get moved on to another part of the ring or another world or whatever it is, and you'll have these big areas to explore and spend time in and whatnot. And I think that works in like a publisher's mind, because they're like, oh well, what if we just release this opening ring world and people can spend hours on there, and then we say, in a month's time you get the next part of the world. But as a cohesive story, that would just be annoying as all hell. So they're like, no, we're just going to release with the full campaign, and then touch upon that fact this is Halo Infinite, and there will be more story to come with other, and that's what they're going to do. They're just going to keep building these different areas and different worlds with different missions within them. That's kind of what I got out of the interview, not the whole, well, they could have broken it up. It's more cementing that fact of how the game is going to be structured going through.
And why the hell they wouldn't break it up. And I agree with both of you. I wouldn't want it breaking up. It's a story that you sit down, you play with friends, like Halo, like co-op in the legendary campaigns. I mean, we've both done that in 3, right? Just sticking it on the hardest difficulty and a few friends trying to get through it. That's the point of Halo. That is Halo. So one last piece of really rubbish news is that Control is going to charge you for a next gen version, basically. We've discussed a few weeks ago about kind of, did we think this was going to start happening? Series X has a Microsoft mandate that is, we'd like any game you're releasing cross-generational to not have a fee to upgrade to the new version. This spits in the face of that a little bit, and in the face of the people who bought the game early on. I, for one, don't back this. I mean, the game's brilliant, but that's publisher shite, isn't it? I mean, Dan, would you where do you see the logic behind that?
Well, essentially what it's doing is 505 Games, who are publishing Control, essentially trying to get anyone that hasn't bought the game yet to buy it. Like, there's no reason for anyone that already has it, so it's just them trying to get as much money out of this game as possible, which really sucks because Remedy as a developer are loved by so many people, especially in the industry. Like, every time you hear the IGNs of the world or anything talk about the people there, like, they respect Remedy so much. And then the sucky thing when this happens is, we know it's 505 Games that are making these decisions, but a lot of the flack gets pointed towards the people that work at Remedy, and that kind of sucks. But I don't see why, if you are someone like, maybe you're someone that bought 2 of the 3 DLCs or something for Control, and they're like, listen, we're to get the full upgrade, you need to have the DLCs and the game. At least you can be like, well, the person that has 2, all they have to do is buy one more DLC and then they can bring the game over or something. I don't get the fact that you have to buy this specific version to be able to move it across. It doesn't make any sense to me.
John, have you any thoughts on
it? Yeah, so this whole smart delivery thing, it's a mandate for first party, but third parties and or anything outside first party can choose. But this whole conversation of my games going with me into next gen is new, because we never had this before. It's always been like, even with the transition from PS3 to PS4, you had Sony double dipping with, you know, HD remasters of some of their first party titles, and no one kind of kicked up much of a stink compared to now about like, oh, why can't I just play my PS3 copy on my PS4? You know, that wasn't around. This is a new conversation. I think it's mainly because of the whole backwards compatible conversation that's been happening in recent years, and Xbox coming out saying, you know, Series X is going to be fully backwards compatible with Xbox One. All your games will come with you. And now people are like, well, you know, why am I going to buy the same game with just next gen patches and stuff? And I understand it's a bit frustrating, but this is a new conversation, and I think Xbox has been leading that conversation as far as you got games like Cyberpunk coming out saying, yeah, you'll get a free upgrade to next gen for PS5 as well, and Series X, and a lot of these developers are jumping on board with that and trying to be more consumer friendly about getting into their games, particularly ones that haven't released yet. You've got different ones like EA and 2K, I think, or I don't know. They're doing their own kind of upgrade window periods, you know. And so there's double dipping in some areas there, but this is just a flat out like, nah, you know, we're just going to do it old school. Here's just a ultimate edition of the game. Take it or leave it. And then some people are making the point of like, if you really wanted to play this game, you would have gotten it already. So what's the big deal? It's not like it's a live service that's going to be lasting forever. It's a single player game with some DLC on it. You know, my Marvel Ultimate Alliance game on my 360, there's no patch for that for the Xbox One game that came out, and that was its own thing, and you can't even get that anymore. It's just taken off the digital store. But you know, it's all this weird conversation, but it's all new. You know, we've never had this before, so I understand the frustration. Just to circle back, but I also, it's a dick move today in this conversation. But if there was no discussions about, well, what's PS5 doing for backwards compatibility and how's that working, and Xbox is leading the charge on forwards compatibility as well and backwards compatibility. Like, if none of that was around, this wouldn't be such a big deal. It's just here's this Game of the Year edition type thing. You know, there's all that happens all the time, where there's a Bethesda game like Skyrim or Oblivion, it comes out a year or two later with a Game of the Year edition that has everything in it, and no one really bats an eye on that. So it's two-sided, but I think today it matters because just of what I just explained. So that, yeah, it's a weird one, but yeah, it's a dick move. Like, for me, I haven't played the game. I'm not entirely interested in it, so I don't really have a dog in that fight. But I can understand it's a fairly recent game, yeah, but big deal. I don't know. I'm kind of on the fence about it, if you can't tell. So I'll just leave it there.
I think the difference with this one, though, is like, if you buy the Ultimate Edition, you can play it on the current gen consoles and then play it as an upgrade on the next gen. So it's just a really straight. I would get it if it was, well, where this is the Series X and PlayStation 5 Ultimate Edition version, like that, I would be like, well, you're double dipping, but okay, that's only for that console. But this is like, no, you can buy this Ultimate Edition and it will allow you to play it on the next gen, which the previous copies couldn't or wouldn't. That's why I think it's a little bit weird and a little bit different to the other examples.
Oh, right. Okay, I missed that part. Well, that is a all right. Just forget everything I just said. That is a bit of a dick move. It's not like a next gen exclusive. It's the same game, but everything in it.
Yep.
And that's the only one that you can get to upgrade. Yeah, that's fucked. Just forget everything I just said. Wow.
A far from ideal situation. I have nothing further to add to that other than what you guys have just kind of said. Next piece of news, I don't think it is kind of bad news, but it's also hilarious news. Dan, you shared this with me and I was like, oh, that's what this is about. The Fortnite jab at Apple, the little mock of the 1984 commercial, absolutely hilarious. And that's in rebuttal to basically Epic turning around and going, nah, we've had enough of 30% leverages from Apple and Google, and we're going to do our own thing, and you can buy things directly within our game. That got them removed from the App Store, which that's the downside of this. But other than that, I think it's hilarious and fair play to them. The piece that I wanted to touch on with this is more, do we think that's going to impact what's going on with xCloud and Game Pass? Because that obviously is currently locked away from iOS users, of which there are millions of. And Microsoft got quite shirty with that. Do you think this is a bit of a rebuttal to what was going on there? Because it seems like that way to me. Chunt, thoughts?
Bit timely, isn't it? Like that whole conversation around Microsoft calling Apple out, and now Epic are doing it. Like this is, two big swinging dicks in the industry now going, yeah, look at, we're going to take you on. I kind of agree with it. I mean, Apple's had this, higher than thou mentality and seeming so just from those peasants like me looking up at such a corporation where, they think they can get away with such a percentage disparity, taking more than what the actual people that create the apps and games take home. So I think Epic are probably one of the only studios that could kind of get away with it. A game developer studio that could do it, because I mean, look at the foothold Epic has. Like, there's such their engine that they make is almost in every game, and they make so much money from that. And let alone Fortnite being just a massive game and a money generator for them. To be able to use that game in particular that is so big, and then to have it removed completely. Like, imagine all these kids today that are like, where's my Fortnite gone? I can't play that. I don't know if people still have it on their phone or if it's gone completely, like if it's been automatically removed from every phone, every iOS device or Android phone. But
can't log in.
Yeah, like, oh really? Okay, well that's well, there you go. So you can't access your game anymore. So you got all these, potentially billions of people and kids around the world going, what the hell? I can't play this now. And the only place to play Fortnite is PC, Xbox, PlayStation, and Switch, which is still a massive portion of the options for you. But you got so many people out there that just, I know for a fact that kids like my nephews and all that, some of them actually just play Fortnite on their dad's phone or whatever, or their mum's phone. So this is going to impact a lot of people. And there's streamers out there, like you see them on Facebook Gaming, where I keep seeing one that keeps popping up on my feed, which I have no subscription to anyone, but these streamers keep appearing in my feed of this chick who's been playing Fortnite on her mobile phone. You can see her, like, camera on her, and she's like got her phone in hand and she's got Fortnite going. And yesterday I noticed that she's now playing Call of Duty because she can't get into her Fortnite. So it's already having an effect, and you can see it live. So I think this is just amazingly entertaining, and that ad that they put out, like you just said, Jamie, was gold. I don't really know who I don't know who's the actual hero here. Like, I haven't looked into it much further than just that, like at an optics level. I haven't looked into it much further than that. But yeah, look, if this is gonna create a ripple effect to benefit the developer somehow, like, I'm for it. Whatever, anything that's gonna help the developers, or not necessarily the companies, but the people that actually work on the game. I hope there's a trickle down effect after all this somehow to help the humans that actually make these games. So yeah, you guys probably know more about this than me, but yeah, many lols.
The actual news of it is it seems to be that both Microsoft and Epic were pushing for relaxation and change to Apple's policies, and that's what everybody's kind of gunning for at the minute. And anybody who can leverage it is going for that. The EU is the place to do it. It's the only place that Apple have had to change policies before. The US courts don't listen. They don't care. Apple are the richest company on the planet, and they're based in Cupertino in the US. They don't want to have that to deal with. But in the EU courts, they have been forced to change some things before, and they're hoping that this can kind of do it again. Do you reckon it's a big enough thing, Dan? Do you reckon Fortnite kind of being banned from iOS and Microsoft kicking up a stink about what's going on with Game Pass and saying, look, it's Apple's fault, is it enough for them to change the policies?
Well, just in terms of the Epic versus Apple stuff, like they're two of the richest companies in the world. Like, they're fine. They're going to survive. I don't have any particularly strong feelings towards either company. But a lot of this has to do with, so Apple take 30% of whatever a game is sold for on the App Store, which is what Epic is trying to get them to relax a bit, and probably Microsoft too with the Games Pass stuff. But the other thing to do with that is, so Epic broke Apple's terms of service, because on Apple's terms of service, anything that is bought through the App Store needs to be paid through the App Store. So that includes any like microtransactions and things. And what Fortnite was doing and what Epic was doing was telling players in the game to go to the Epic Store and purchase your skins and stuff there. And by doing it that way, Epic get more of a cut of any of the skins and stuff that were bought, which was against the policy. And Apple said, you can't do that. And then Epic went, well, screw you, we're going then. So both companies have their right in that sense. It's a bit weird evoking that. The trailer was hilarious, like as a parody of Apple's trailer from the Super Bowl ad. But it also is, it's trying to get Epic to get like us, like players, to like side with them and like raise up against Apple and stuff like that. But in the end, it has nothing to do with us, really. Yeah, it doesn't. Either way this goes, I don't think we're going to see much as a result of it. I think they'll just get these. If Epic wins, they'll just get richer. If Apple wins, they'll continue to be richer. Like, I don't think there's going to be much passed along to the consumer, if you want to put it that way. But yeah,
I'd have to agree.
So much for talking about positive things this episode.
Yeah, no, I'll just add to your point. I agree with you there. Like, the consumer's not going to know or care. Like my nephew, who's 6 years old, is not going to give a stuff about what's happening. He's just like, I can't get into my game now. You know, Mom, what's going on? That's the problem. Where this is the combat that you don't see, the silent war that you just don't know about. That's the
Capitalism.
problem. Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Well, there was one good thing to talk about this week, and it happened right at the start of the week, so I'd forgotten it even happened. But we got our next Night City wire from CD Projekt. We all watched, all enjoyed. Good. How did that do?
Yeah.
We'll use Dan's terminology of the whole moving the needle thing. What did this showing do for you, Uncle Chunt?
Oh man, this showed more than I actually wanted. Like, well, that sounded bad. It showed more of what I wanted to see. Not more than I actually wanted. That's bad. But no, man, I was watching it. I just built my PC, my new one, and I put it on. I totally forgot about it, and like it was 11 o'clock at night, and I was like, I've got to go to bed. But then I saw the neon lights in my PC. I was like, oh wait, wasn't there a new Cyberpunk episode thing out? And I went on and was like, oh yeah, episode 2 Night City Wire. I was like, oh, all right, I'll sit here and I'll delay my sleep for a little bit longer. And far out, I had it on like the 4K feed on my screen, and it just looked so good, and I just sat there distracted, like, all right, just give me what you're gonna do. And I'm so sold on it now compared to the last stuff that we've seen, like just the different aspects of the origins you can choose and how they intertwine. And that's kind of what I was saying in our downloading soon, that I was hoping that we'd see, is no matter what origin you choose, how they intersect into each other and how the different conversations work. And it's just far out. It's just what we wanted, or what I wanted at least. And the corpo, like, I know I'm jumping ahead, but the corpo is exactly what I'm going to do, because it's like Blade Runner, it's like future tech, it's future world, the whole corporate oppression and stuff like that. It's all the cyberpunk stuff. Yeah, the street level and the nomad, yeah, cool. I don't really care for the nomad stuff, but the street kid part of it is insanely appealing. Like, I'm on the fence on where to go, but I'm going corpo because to me that's more interesting as far as the whole future corporate world and how
you're a corporate sellout.
Yeah, I'll sell out tomorrow if I could. And like how I'm interested in what choices you'll have there, and like what conversations you'll have at a corporate level of how you look at the people below you, and how much privilege you'll have, and just all of that fascinates me. The whole Matrix, Blade Runner vibe of it, on that kind of thing, like particularly the new Blade Runner movie. Like, I need to go back and watch it, but I'm getting so very much vibes on that side of things, on that origin level. So I'm doing that 100%, and I was on the fence with it until I watched that video. But I don't know how this game exists. Like, it looks amazing, it's massive, there's a lot of stuff happening, and yeah, it's incredible. I mean, Jamie, you were saying you don't know how Avengers is going to run on base units. I don't know how this game exists this gen. I really don't. But yeah, I'm really hyped.
Maybe,
someone else can talk.
Maybe why we're seeing it delayed until next gen, so that people can see that and go, "Nah, I've got to play it on a next gen machine." But look, I'll jump in there rather than Dan. You can wrap us up with it, but because I agree, like the whole presentation of that episode was so much more than the first one. It was more of what I wanted to see, less of what I didn't want to see. Again, yeah, I've come away with that whole, this is a real thing, like we're gonna play this year, like wow. So yeah, nothing more really to add other than what you said there, Chun. It really did. I mean, I've been sold on it for a long time. The aesthetics, the kind of story, the sci-fi elements, it's all my cup of tea. So yeah, like bring it on, give it to me like yesterday. I think I've said that about 600 times. Like, give it to me when it was supposed to come out. But Dan, what did it do for you? I know you're a bit kind of on the fence with it in terms of the setting, etc. So how did this affect you?
Well, I was going to get it, but like, yeah, as we've been talking, if I was at 80%, I'm at 95. I'm going to buy it. It's done. Listen to our downloading student podcast this week to find out more. But this was such an improvement over the first episode. Even the music stuff, like I also love watching stuff about like behind the scenes stuff, and with the music and having this guy trying to be the voice of Keanu Reeves' character and singing like him in a way, but having their own sound. Even that stuff, I keep saying stuff. Even that was enjoyable to watch. And then they were showing off the weapons, and it made me think of Resistance, because I've always loved those weapons in those games, and the fact that you can shoot through walls or shoot around corners with, depending on the weapon that you have. I'm interested to see which way I go. Normally, I love using a sniper rifle. So whatever version of that, whether it's a smart gun, or they had different variations of it. I probably won't use a lot of the enhancements that they showed off, like the knives that come out of your arms and shit like that. I'll probably just stick more to guns. But
give me those knives.
The real knockout was showing off those different origins for your character. That is the stuff that I love. If the story is just good, this will be an amazing game for me to play. But yeah, I think we've all decided on that we're all playing a different one. I think I've got Nomad, which I'm very happy about, being the outcast, walking into Night City like I'm a cowboy, rolling into town, taking shit on. I'm very excited.
Red Dead Cyberpunk.
Yeah.
Scooting in your cowboy boots. Yeah, and Chunt, you're going to play the Corpo and I'll play the street kid. But yeah, it was so good. The fact that I think this is what we need to remember, you know, is like there's a lot of negativity around, but this game exists. Like, look at where we're going in terms of the medium of games in general. Like, this next gen, I think, is gonna show us some pretty awesome things in the world of video games. But that'll wrap us up, boys. A good conversation, as always. Was very fun. Dan's over there on the left. Uncle Chunt, aka the man in the middle.
Yeah, I certainly am
in the middle. Yes, and I've been Jamie, and I'm your host, and we will see you next week. I'm going to go play Avengers.
I'm going to have breakfast. Bacon and eggs.
Wash your hands first.
Oh, okay.